It's like up to that point, I'd been living with my eyes closed the whole time. In the previous video, I talked about retreats in general and the struggles during my first 2 days of my first retreat. In this video, I'm going to talk about how this retreat itself transformed my life for the better. And so day 1 and day 2, pretty painful for me. Day 3, however, this was when things started to turn around. Now our teacher told us that certain issues like depression, like allergies, or even skin conditions like psoriasis, these conditions have certain associated body parts or like sources. So for depression, I was told that the heart is the source of that. And so what we should do during this retreat, if you have depression and you want to deal with it, is to apply mindfulness towards the heart. And if I focused hard enough, I could hear each pulse. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And a little bit later, I started to feel the heart in my chest. And not only did I feel my heart, I started to feel pain and discomfort when I focused on it really hard. It was like as if there was a knife stabbing through my heart. Or it's a bit like what I would imagine a knife would feel like if it was in my heart. Or at least a little bit of like the feeling. I'm sure it's very painful. And what was interesting is that when I turned my focus off, when I let my mind drift, or when I opened my eyes, the pain would be gone. And I thought, that's super, super weird. And this piqued my interest. Like finally, there's something that I really want to explore and investigate during this retreat. So I spent all the meditation sessions focusing on the heart, just really trying to observe the sensations that I was feeling without being averse to it, without making any judgments about it, without being engaged in any thought formations that may have arisen because of it. Just observing the heart, observing the sensations in an objective and accepting mindset, which is what we were taught to do. And it must have been like 2 or 3 hours when my first flashback hit. And in this flashback, I was taken back to my childhood from when I was 3 or 4 years old. But basically at the time, I had this doll. His name was Bongo. He was a monkey. And I went everywhere with Bongo. I couldn't let go of him, and I never wanted to let go of him. But of course, at the airport, I had to let go of him for a few seconds because he had to go through the scanner with all the bags. And I remember crying so hard, I didn't want to go. And like the officers, the people working at the x-ray machine, they were like, oh, no, it's just for a while, don't worry about it. And, eventually I had to let go. And then they let me look at Bongo from the x-ray machine just to keep my mind at ease. And then I carried on my day afterwards. So of course, everything was okay with Bongo, and I still have him now. But why I felt this was significant was because it showed me how I always attached myself and overly clung to people or things that I cared about. I didn't know how to let go. A large part of the reason I was depressed at the time was because there was a relationship that was no longer intact, and I couldn't accept that. And there's another story that parallels the story with Bongo. But this story happened to my aunt, and this was in Indonesia. She was walking home with my dad from a restaurant nearby, and then there was a biker who sped through, grabbed her purse, and zoomed away. Nothing my aunt or my dad could do about it. And so in this case, of course, my aunt eventually let go of the purse when she figured out what was going on. Because if she held on to that purse, she would have been dragged on the road and she still wouldn't have gotten her bag back. She would have lost it anyway because there's no way she would overpower a motorbike. And also she would get scratches and bruises and wounds all over her body if she held on. And this is a lot like life, right? Sometimes life takes away things from us that we don't want it to take away. And the way to go about it is not to hold on tighter to these things. The solution is to let go. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to let go permanently. It's not just for a few seconds as the thing we love goes through an x-ray machine. As much as that sucks, it's the reality of life. And after that flashback, I was kind of stunned. I opened my eyes. I was like, wow, I finally understand a little bit more about things like impermanence or anicca, as I was taught in the retreat, it really hit me that nothing in life was permanent. And the suffering that I was experiencing at the time, I realized, was a result of a lack of understanding and acceptance of the impermanence of life and things that we might care about. And what was also interesting after this realization, I went back into meditation and continued focusing on the heart like I did before. And interestingly, the pain that I was experiencing when I really focused on the heart, it was less intense. I carried on meditating, I carried on being patient with it, just observing the sensations, and eventually, flashback number 2 happened. And this was with my brother and my godbrother, who wasn't my godbrother back then, he was just an annoying kid. But so the three of us, we hung out a lot, and my brother and my godbrother, like they're the same age, and I was like kind of a third wheel, maybe. And as boys do, we often fought a lot, but play fighting most of the time. I think there was one time where it got a little bit too far, and our godbrother just kind of kicked me, and it hit me like square in the stomach, like right here. And it hurt a lot because of the pain, like the physical pain, but like also because he walked away and he didn't apologize, and he just, went with his friends. And I felt like kind of hurt from that, and I feel like that's a reflection of how things were in childhood. Not that he kicked me very often, like I think that was the only time. But I guess there was always that fear of being left out. And it's always been the case that those two were best friends. And my godbrother was my best friend at the time, but I wasn't his best friend, you know what I'm saying? And this had me thinking and reflecting that even outside of this trio, I still felt like a lot of my self-worth was based on how others saw me and how accepted I was like in a group. I was always so obsessed with like having a gang to hang out with. And even since primary school, like when I was like 11, 12, I always made sure to like be the one to, invite the same group of friends over to my place to like play basketball, play soccer, to go swimming. And I was so obsessed with like being a part of something, a part of a gang to belong to. And of course, it is super normal to have these feelings, but I think I might have taken it way too overboard, especially in my teenage years. Like, my life revolved around whether my status in my group of friends was stable or not. Like, it was stable, I didn't care about my grades, I was happy. If it wasn't stable, then I couldn't focus on anything else at all. And so this realization taught me that there are so many people around me who care for me and love me, like my parents, my family. And all my life up to that point, I neglected that. I took it for granted, and I was like, nope, I don't really care. I just care about my friends, and I care about being cool, and that's it. But really, what I needed to do was acknowledge the people that helped me through my life and really show compassion and love back to them. I think this really allowed me to take a step forward and grow from it. And this retreat was so invaluable for that. And after that revelation, surprise, surprise, when I tried to focus on my heart, there was no more pain. The knife had been taken out, and it felt light and rich. And so this was about day 4, day 5 of the retreat, and I still had a couple more days to go till the end. But those final few days were so much easier than the first 2 days, let me tell you. Like, I was feeling so much peace that I've never felt before in my life. I'd experienced so much clarity of my issues and my experiences at the time. It was as if I'd been myopic for 19 years of my life, and I'd only just then worn my first pair of glasses. And eventually we got to the end of the retreat, and I gotta admit, I was not a completely new person. I was still the same me. I still had problems. I was not perfect, far from it. But now I felt a taste of peace, a taste of what meditation could do for my life. Never looked back from that. And coming home from that, I had never felt so at ease with myself, so accepting and loving towards myself. Never in my life had I experienced such a calm period of like a month even, where I didn't break down for some strange, silly reason. I would just get too overly emotional, I would overthink, and I would break down. But like after this meditation retreat, that didn't happen anymore. My depression basically went away, I was in remission, and even now 5 years later, I still have problems, definitely. But these 5 years have been the most emotionally peaceful years of my life. When I finished retreat, I went home, and maybe 3 or 4 days later, I was back on scrolling my phone every 5 seconds. It's definitely not a one-time solution for all of your problems. It's not like that. It's not a magic pill. It's a magical experience, but like it's not like magical in terms of like you're a completely new person just like that and you don't have to do anything afterwards. No, not true. What happens is that it gives you the tools to work with yourself and your emotions. And it's up to you to continue using those tools and maintaining that sense of peace and clarity by meditating regularly. And afterwards, I didn't have much time to do retreat, but I did manage to go on some half-day retreats, which were great, and maybe like, 2-day retreats and in the wilderness with my meditation friends in Berkeley. I also did lock myself in my apartment for a week alone with no phone and no technology. Well, there was a bit of technology. I was reading a little bit, but I would not recommend that. Please don't do that. And then I wanted to become a monk, and I decided not to, of course. Check out the video above. And that was my experience with retreats. Thank you so much if you've gotten to the end of the video. Really, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate the time that you took to watch and listen to me. I hope that you've learned something about retreats. I hope that one day, you face your discomforts and just go for one. I promise you, it will be beneficial, if not life-changing, okay? Like I can almost guarantee it. Honestly. Yeah, but that's it for this video. I'm gonna check out.